Now here we are flying in just absolutely beautiful weather, and you can do this sort of thing because you already know about the surface analysis chart and how it shows you pressure patterns and fronts, and you can figure out when you're going to have beautiful weather like this. Let's take a look at another very useful tool that's a weather picture that gives you at a glance VFR, marginal VFR, and IFR weather, and that is the weather depiction chart. And just like the surface analysis chart, it's prepared every 3 hours. Now notice, this thing depicts the weather that was actually observed, actually happening at the time of the observation. It's not a forecast chart. When you're getting ready for an IFR flight, you can use a weather depiction chart for a good look at general weather conditions. So the weather people have made it very easy for you to read VFR, IFR, and marginal VFR at a glance, and the reason they made it so easy is they put a legend down here. So let's take a look at the legend and see if we can figure it out. First of all, let's take a look at no contours down here. That's VFR. That's areas with ceilings greater than 3,000 feet and our visibility is greater than 5 miles. Let's take a look at that. If you look at an area with no contours around here, that's just plain old VFR weather. Now if you go back to the legend and look again, you'll see the next area is a contoured area. Well, that's without shading. That's the first contour, and that's marginal VFR. And that's areas with ceilings greater than or equal to 1,000 feet or less than or equal to 3,000 feet, and or visibility is greater than or equal to 3 miles, to less than or equal to 5 miles. Let's translate that into English. That's marginal VFR weather, and that's ceilings 1,000 to 3,000 feet. That's visibility 3 to 5 miles. So that's inside the first contour when you look on the chart here, and you see the first contour is marginal VFR. So out here we have VFR. Here's marginal VFR. Now you might ask, what is this shaded area inside the second contour? Let's take a look at that. The shaded area inside the second contour is IFR weather. That's ceilings with less than 1,000 feet and or visibility is less than 3 miles. So let's take a look at that and see if we can make sense out of it. We've got it right here. Here's VFR weather, here's marginal VFR weather, and here's IFR weather. Now let's take a look at the whole country. And out here in the western part of the country, you notice there are no lines at all. This area, the whole area here, is basically VFR. On the other hand, let's take a look at the north central states, and you'll see that there's inside this first contour a large area of marginal VFR, and inside the second contour with the hash marks there is a big area of IFR weather. So there's a lot going on here. Now let's take a look at a trip we might make from central Arkansas, and let's assume we're going to go down from central Arkansas down to Alabama. Let's take a look at central Arkansas and see if we can figure out how to read this chart in a little more detail. Now if you were going to make this trip from central Arkansas down to Alabama, let's take a look at what kind of weather you might have. Now notice the stations are shown just as they are in the surface analysis chart, and the percentage that this circle is filled in tells you what kind of clouds they're having. Here it's 3/4 of the way filled in. They're having broken clouds. Look underneath the station and the cloud heights are here. Just add 2 zeros to it, and these clouds are broken clouds at 25,000 feet. Now if you move into Mississippi, notice we have scattered clouds because we only have 1/4 of the symbol filled in. They're also at 25,000 feet. And then we get on over to Alabama. We're still scattered to sometimes clear weather, but scattered clouds here at 25,000 feet. And so if we're going to do this trip from Arkansas to, we'll say central Arkansas down to Alabama, you want to know what the weather was going to be like. Well, you would say scattered to broken clouds, and they're going to be, 25,000 feet almost the whole trip. Now let's take a look at Texas. I'll walk across Texas here. It can take a long time to walk across Texas. It can take a long time to fly across Texas. All right, let's take a look at eastern Texas. And eastern Texas here, we've got some IFR weather. And we know that because we have these contour lines with the dashes inside or the hash marks inside, so we know that's IFR weather. Now let me ask you a question. What's causing that IFR weather in eastern Texas? Well, you'll notice that we have the station symbol with an X in it, and that means the sky is obscured, but there's no cloud height, so we don't know how high the clouds are. But if you look to the left, there's 2 miles visibility, and that what looks like an equal sign there tells you that they have fog. So we know what's causing the IFR weather for sure. We know that it's due to visibility because it's only 2 miles visibility and they have fog. But it's probably not due to rain or anything like that because we don't have any symbols for rain. Oh, by the way, take a look at this bracket symbol up here in this station, and that bracket symbol tells you that's an automated station. So if you ever see this bracket symbol, it tells you you have an automated station. Now let's take a look at another weather depiction chart, and let's mosey on up to northern Minnesota and see what kind of weather they got going up there. And holy mackerel, unless my eyes are deceiving me, they're going to be having a whole lot of instrument weather up here in the land of 10,000 lakes. And how do I know that? Because of this contour line with the cross hatching, and that tells me that they're having IFR weather. Now, if you look at this symbol right here, they're telling you at this station they have an overcast of 1,500 feet and they have 1/2 mile visibility. Now, take a gander at these 4 dots up here. These 4 dots is weather depiction chart symbology telling you that they're experiencing continuous rain, and it's heavy at times. So there is a lot of rain going on there. Now let's amble down to Florida, and when we get to Florida, which I think is a special place, you'll see that there's something very special going on in Florida, because if you look at that symbol and it says TDJY, that stands for Tropical Depression Jerry. And by the way, those X's don't mean that Jerry is X-rated in spite of what you might think is going on in Florida. What it tells you is they don't know his pressure yet, and as soon as they do find out his pressure, they'll replace those X's with the actual atmospheric pressure. Now, you would think a tropical depression would have a lot of rain associated with it, wouldn't you? Well, let's take a look. Around this tropical depression in this area, this station has 2 dots, this station has 2 dots, this station has 2 dots, this station has 2 dots. Well, what that means there is, in these stations, they do have continuous rain, but the rain was only slight at the time of the observation. Maybe that's why Jerry is depressed. He has such little rain, and all the other tropical depressions are laughing at him. Maybe he'll get more rain later on. Well, in any event, you can see that the weather depiction chart can be a pretty quick way of determining just where you'll need that IFR rating you're working so hard to get.